What if the very act of seeking is the thing that keeps you lost? What if every time someone asks you to tell them who you are, you're burying yourself a little bit deeper? This is Resonant Truth, and this is a funeral. And today we're laying to rest the lie that you can buy your way home. We've just returned from the MindBodySpirit Festival, finally finding our fate and recuperating our energy and just leaning into the lessons and what was offered and what that experience was for us. Its own trial by fire of sorts. We'll get to that later. And what we found, and what we thought we found, were quite different in what we want to discuss today. What we found wasn't spirit, it was hunger. People circling boots like hungry ghosts, asking, how long is the reading? What do I get for this much money? Will you tell me who I am? The ache is real, the search is real, the quest is there. The desire is there too. But what we saw was not the path. It was an illusion of movement, and thinking that a little bit here and a little bit there is enough to satiate the soul, and it isn't, and it wasn't. And we're not above it. We've been there too. We've tried to trade coin for clarity and going from this to this to this and constantly seeking. And we begged someone wiser to save us from the silence. For me, that's been playing out for years, even before I discovered the spiritual marketplace. But here's the truth. No one can sell you yourself. You can buy information. You can buy insight. You can even buy the illusion of transformation. But you cannot buy truth. And this was a profound revelation, and one that's very hard to get across when people are just looking for that quick fix. But you cannot buy truth, because truth isn't given. It's earned through experience, through death, through return. So I'm sitting here with Daniel, of course, and today we're going to mourn the fantasy of the shortcut, the fix me. Now this episode may sting. It's meant to. Remember, we're not here to soothe you. We're here to constantly unmask the lies and the falsehood and ask you, are you really ready to come home? Or are you still waiting for someone to carry you? How do you feel after MBS, Daniel?
What an experience it was. Seeing some familiar faces, meeting so many new ones. It was an eye-opening experience in so many ways. And to everyone who did attend and, we've made contact with, whether you purchased something or reached out to us and we've connected since then, or even if you just stopped for a chit-chat, it's been wonderful to just meet so many new faces.
That there really was. And we had people that we've only ever met on Instagram, people from our community come especially to see us, family that came to support us, and people who didn't see us but were messaging every day asking if we're hanging in there. And it was such a mirror onto our own selves. A lot of the shadow self for me came up. And for me, it was also a massive, reality check, because I guess I went in with where I am today. It's like, of course everyone's ready, and of course people want to dive in deep and they're aware and curious, but that was far from the case. And that's what we'll continue on with, is what we really noticed, and that was quite abrupt and antithetical in a way to what we stand for as the truth of you, was patterns in the collective psyche. Give me a reading. Daniel, give me a reading. Tell me the truth.
And we didn't even start with the readings on the Friday as well. We realized that's what people were looking for, the not necessarily instant gratification, but something they could take away right now. And the nature of, typically what we do is it requires more time, more investment, going deeper. This is not something that, people even know how to get initiated into doing this work quickly. And it's something that took us years to develop as well. But in a space like the MindBodySpirit Festival, the energy was quite loud and quite chaotic as well, and there was lots of energy, but it wasn't necessarily centered in everyone, and it was very easy for a lot of people to sort of get caught up in what others were doing. Because what I also seemed to notice is once we had one person looking at us, we'd have another, and then there'd be a group of people watching, and then when it'd go quiet, the interest would also drop as well. So even just the social psychology of it all is just something that was really eye-opening to me.
And also how environment, like, we're not against readings. I've had powerful readings that when I was searching and couldn't locate myself, they spoke so much truth, and I would go back to you and just say, and then this happened, and then this happened, and I found out all of these things for myself. But I also suspended my external environment. I can't receive something when I'm walking around and we saw people whose husband or wife or child or someone was always pulling them away from something, and you just can't receive it. It's not the way that, deep excavation or shadow work can work. And that was, again, a shock for me. It's like, what do you mean people don't want to dive deep into everything? But that's not where the majority is. And we were also not there. And none of this is said with any criticism. It's, we respect where people are on their path and their soul's journey and what the soul wants to experience. But the fact that even, today people in this space do not have a concept of truth or self. And again, we were those people, and parts of us are still maturing into, a full embodiment and understanding of that. But I think we had also such a contrast of people, like, again, those amazing souls who wanted to just, find out more. And there was a young woman who came and asked some really distinct questions, and a young gentleman who was also an absolute mystic, or I don't remember what, but he had, great breadth and depth of esoteric languages. And then at the same time, we had someone who was an exhibitor come by and be disgusted by the mere fact that we exist. And we
got it all.
Yeah, we got everything, and we wanted to consolidate this and also provide that awareness to those listening. We used to believe the same lies, and again, the big part of this podcast is burying those lies.
I mean, when it comes to even saying it as believing those lies, it's interesting because I would say people come from the perspective. Many people that I saw, especially when you were doing the readings, parts that I would overhear, or the stories from people walking up, would just be, they're so rooted in the 3D, they're so rooted in their lived experience that it's so easy to forget that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, to the point that their spirit is so fractured that they don't even if they wanted to claim it, it's so broken apart that they have to basically pick up one piece at a time as well. And that's what I saw with your readings, that you start to bring it all back into something that resembles a shape. And I mean, we had to pull the tissue box out straight away because you were just cutting so close to the core so quickly in those readings, just 20 to 30 minutes they were typically going for. And I remember there was one who was crying in the first 3 minutes. So people are ready, but it's still, sometimes the truth can just, like the light, it can also blind, and it can be so powerful. And that's what I think a lot of people who, they thought they'd get some questions answered, but the thing is that even though a lot of them, they all seemed ready for it, but it was still so powerful. That's what I seem to see. And even there was only so much that could be condensed in a loud environment, in a quick sit down, and really hope that those who did take any reading at the festival use that as further initiatory work and not a one and done, because a lot of these, I guess, spaces or exploration between modalities, and that's definitely where I started. I was not immune to this, but it was this fix me energy. If I just turn over the next stone and the next stone and keep on turning all the stones, then I will be fixed. But one thing I didn't have was an obsession with fast answers. Held a lot of space to be in that liminal space where I'm not where I was and have absolutely not landed where I'm going next. It's this just foggy space with no sense of time, space, orientation. Can I say that's where we sort of really connected, is the fact that, because I was going deep and exploring and understanding that really learning how to connect with spirit on your own is, it does take time, it does take practice. And I'd also say that, like, for our own path, it was key to be able to slow things down to a pace where we could both resonate and then grow that energy together as well. Oh, it's that resonance. The resonance does not happen just like that.
Unless the heart walls all come down and then we get to experience what we have. But can you talk more to what's this obsession with fast answers? Because that is something which I always admire within you. You can hold so much ambiguity, or you will go where you need to go in order to find the answer. You're not in it for the quick fix. So what do you think fuels or fosters this obsession with fast answers, especially when it comes to big concepts like truth and you?
I think it's just pressures of this world, really. Spirit doesn't work with time. It's sort of hard to describe time from a spiritual perspective because it's one of the greatest currencies, but also time doesn't work the same way from that perspective as well. We notice this with ourselves when we're in a state of trance for our past life regression work. But I would say the thing is, again, as I mentioned, people having, a fractured or a split spirit, they're coming so much from the ego perspective first of, well, I only earn so much money and I only have so many hours free per week, that time is already such a constraining factor. And we think, astrologically, we think of the planet Saturn as, before we, had the telescope, Saturn was the furthest out planet visually that we knew in the solar system. And so it was the thing that constrained and limited and ruled the solar system, so to speak. And, that plays a role in how we actually determined the cycles that became time and the calendars as well. So I think Saturn's work and really that idea of limitation is one that has such a strong hold on today's world as well. And especially not only that, but also the fast pace. The evolving technology always has people, scrolling for the next thing, and there's a shallowness that's also crept in as well. So this isn't even a one-dimensional, topic to tackle, but it's the one that there's so much to do in so little time. So I sort of just need the answers now. And really the answers, as I've experienced them coming into truth, is that it's in every moment. But how you access that isn't from getting caught up in each individual moment. It's being able to, it's almost like connecting to your own experience, synthesizing it as a continuous now of everything that's always happening as well. Words don't do it justice, but the less you connect with spirit, the more you're going to be fractured. And I really just see elements like time and busyness all just naturally getting in the way when you can't connect to flow and the essence of your own spirit that, in a sense, is timeless.
I love that. In continuation of collecting modalities like trading cards, it's like, how many X sessions have you done? I've done more, and I go to this, and there is a time and space for these explorations, but also, through my own experience, when I was not called to do something or sessions cancelled, it's time to put it down, and there's respect for that. But you highlighted some great points, especially in spaces like that, of maybe the misuse of psychics, intuitive, and healers as oracles of external authority, and how what's coming through could be the truth, but there's a certain filtration that happens through paradigms. Can you speak more to that?
I mean, the very first point is externalizing your authority to someone else, thinking that someone else can give you the answer. And, there's nothing wrong with hiring someone to mow your lawn for you. It still gets the job done. There's nothing wrong with using a psychic or a medium or an intuitive to be able to, provide or acquire these answers for you. But really the problem that most people carry is something much deeper, where they're actually externalizing their own capacity to do that, because whether they don't believe, whether they've never been initiated into their own higher self and the spirit realm, they're already coming from a place of, well, I just can't do it. So I guess I just have to trust. And the dangers with that, I'm not going to be one to go and necessarily immediately go and question a psychic or a medium and just say, how do I know that you actually are legit? They're not the sort of questions I like to ask. The questions I'd be asking these sort of people would be, as you mentioned, sort of, how do you know you've done your own, you've cleared your own perception correctly, so that any messages you do channel or receive are pure and they're not corrupted by your own filters. Because that's the challenge as well, is we all think that we can see a deeper truth, but really we've all got our own crap to work through, and even you and I aren't immune to this. But what's great about both being on the path is, we can call it out and make light of it, or help uplift the other as well. And as we continue to engage in the community, we have each other to support through, our own growth and struggles, rather than, falling backwards like we used to do beforehand.
But one thing that, a lot of these readings were destiny readings, or they're all wanting to just give someone the North Star. And what came to mind was that you can find out the seemingly existential questions, such as, why am I here? Where do I need to go? What's my purpose? You can find this out from the right perspective, and that perspective is deeper. And like these psychics and whatnot, they're not working with their typically not working with their conscious faculties to get this. And if anything, I hope that, practitioners like this start opening people up to what is available, but also that they can access this themselves. Not that it's done immediately.
I wouldn't say it's not their conscious faculties, but it's you might say it's subconscious elements of themselves that they become aware of, that can tap into to establish the connection.
But remember, no one can give you back what you've never truly met. And this is a big part of the truth, is how do you know it to be the truth? Where is the aspect of direct experience? So Daniel, why do you think it's so tempting to believe someone else has your truth? Do you have my truth? Is it in the kitchen?
That's a big question right there. I mean, how do I even tackle that one? The thing is that we're always looking to someone else who's further along the path to have done the dirty work for themselves and think that we can bypass it. Maybe they've had to build a bridge to traverse the swamp of their own path. And then you think that, well, if I follow them, I can use their bridge. Not realizing that our own inner terrain is so individual and it's so unique that they can be compared to others, but really they are their own. Which is why, we speak to direct experience being, one of the first and most fundamental truths. So I think the temptation is a type of bypassing, or the action of falling into temptation is an attempt to bypass the fact that you have to discover it for yourself. Whatever it is, however it is, in every situation, every lived experience, every paradigm, every lifetime, they are all some of them can be relatively simple, some of them can take a whole lifetime or more to even begin to figure out what the hell is even going on. And so the temptation is a way to just, how can I get the answers quickly? How can I not have to actually do this work for myself? That's generally what I tend to see in most cases.
Well, it's also, if someone else gives me the answer, then I don't have to dismantle who I think I am. And it's also, I know from my case, when I first started with readings or speaking to others, I was simply seeking validation for what I already thought I knew. And that was just trying to dress the ego. And I absolutely was. In the first reading I had with the astrologer that we saw, I was sitting there and I was just waiting for her to tell me everything and that I thought I knew. She was just going to validate it, that if I hustle harder and grind even more and do as I was doing, everything would be just fine. But that mere thought, I did not have to dismantle who I think I was in order to get to who she was presenting me as. So there's a lot of layers, as well as also the emotional avoidance that drives the hunger for shortcuts. There is such a fear of feeling. It's like, if I sit down with this person, what if they do reveal something so paradoxical to everything that I've constructed for myself? And that can be absolutely soul destroying, that people buckle up, shut the windows, lock the door, deadbolt the back door, and no one's ever getting in there again.
Yeah, it's funny when we talk about, like, I don't have to dismantle who I think I am, because I've, especially on my path until sort of recently, I'd say I was very good at dismantling myself mentally. I have no issues pulling myself apart in any and which way and then putting myself back together and having a laugh about it. But when it comes to doing that emotionally, I am I'm about as flexible as a brick. And so even understanding that dismantling as well, there are different dimensions to it as well. And even connecting with that as well, especially once it starts to come up, say like in the readings and such, the wound can be so ripe, or that disempowerment or whatever it is that's there. It can be part of you that's so raw and so forgotten and so, buried away from the consciousness. The moment it's exposed, it's already screaming in pain again. And so I think that's another reason, when you were mentioning before about believing someone else has your truth, needing to confront everything that is there. And it can be so heavy that under those cases, which ego who isn't ready would want to actually confront that?
Absolutely. We'll be addressing in the next episode, or really going into the lie that we said we would discuss, and that is I am who I think I am. Because we work so hard from an ego level and spend so much energy trying to hold up these false facades because of that deep fear of feeling. But we were speaking beforehand that direct experience is the only path. So using like QHHT, for example, I remember I had some tarot readings way back when and other experiences, and we had one before we got together in Brisbane where it was fantastic to be told we had a past life in X and doing Y, and they're fantastic stories, especially for podcasts and whatnot. But then having that live first-hand experience when we go under in QHHT, it's like I am that person character that the soul wants me to learn the lesson. I'm feeling what's happening. And especially in today's market, especially even in the spiritual economy, insight is cheap. Readings can be found. There are phenomenal practitioners in many different modalities and languages that have been around for 20 years before any of this was cool. They know what they're doing, but integration is sacred, and using QHHT, like the integration happens as the insight comes through. So can you give an example about like this direct experience is?
I mean, fundamentally, everyone wants the world to change around them. But the one thing we forget that we can play with is our own conscious experience. And that's what trance states offer. It's sort of like when you're dreaming at night, when you're sleeping. Who's the one doing the dream? Are you the witnesser? Like, it depends. It depends how lucid and how aware you can be in these states.
And that's a big part of what we found was started the path, experienced all these modalities, and they all had a place. And I had some phenomenal experiences where, sure, I didn't feel the transformation right then and there, but I could definitely feel the cumulative effect of approaching it from many different facets. And I know I'm quite different, and I have a hunger for this. I'll go hard or go home with this. If I'm going to break down, I'm going to be the best at breaking down, kind of thing. And I will go at it from all angles to get to the truth. But ultimately, we found that I couldn't buy my way home because I'm not a product, and that's not what the soul ultimately is looking for either. It runs on different currencies than what we've been told, but there is such an important place for the languages and modalities at the start until people become, self-initiated. And that's a big part of what we stand for with the truth of you is we don't give the answer. We can give guidance, we can give insight, you can give perspective, you can bend and stretch a paradigm, we can put people under, but it's really inviting people into their own fire.
Yeah, as mentioned before, it's about being able to play around with your own consciousness. The fact is, we'll always want to change the channels on the TV without realizing life is its own channel.
And even when you had some deeper conversations with people on this point, that the work is confusing, the work is going to be met with resistance. Even the message, like the framing of it as being work. And what else is there for a self to do for all of time, space, continuum, and existence, and everything else in between? There's going to be a lot of retreat. There's going to be times where we feel like nothing's happening, and then something phenomenal happens. That's how it felt on, I guess, the last few months of the path. Is I just threw my hands up completely. There was no business concept coming through. There was less people in my life than before. And then the greatest thing happened on the 10th of March.
Spoiler warning, we got together.
So what is the cost of truth?
I mean, ultimately, the cost of truth is yourself. I mean, how does an answer like that sit with you?
It's everything you thought you knew of yourself and all that you didn't know about yourself and all of the constructs and all of the scripts that are running. For some, that price is too high to pay in this world.
So what have you found you to be without the constructs and the scripts?
I think I can't answer this without giving a spoiler alert to our book or to parts of our book.
I'm asking your experience.
Only love is real. The ego doesn't want truth. It wants comfort dressed in cosmic language. But when you look for the oracle outside of you, you're forgetting how much of the oracle is within you as well. So in the next episode, we are going to be continuing on with I Am Who I Think I Am, and keeping on hosting funerals for the senses of self and perception. And if you love what you're listening to, we'd appreciate your feedback, whether that's through sending us a message on Instagram. I'm the Eleanor Moshe.
And I'm the Daniel Darman.
And if you have any questions, then we'd be more than happy to answer them in future episodes. Until the next episode, we hope this resonated with you. And here's to discovering the truth of you.
Because you're too big to be this small.